Hello, thank you very much for inviting me. I would like to present this movement, Cidades, pela, Retoma, Cities for Recovery, and start by saying that we are actually not a social movement. Maybe we are at the wrong panel, I don't know, but we are rather, in the sense that we do not have any direct experience in mobilizing in specific projects. What we are is a group of people who came up with some mechanisms to make other social movements work better, perhaps. And that's what I'm going to talk about now. So this is our main motivation, the main question that was asked: how can cities and their communities deal with times of crisis and transition? We recognize that civil society needs to be able to organize itself at local scales to reflect about its collective future, especially in times like the ones we are facing now. We also have seen that despite the incipient and ephemeral nature of many urban civic movements, their resilience and their consistency justifies greater attention and greater engagement. And it also uses the potential, the idea that our cities are the perfect place to explore new forms of development, new forms of mobilization. If it does not happen in cities, it will not happen anywhere else. And then our arguments are as follows. We think that the localized scale of the interventions and the growing autonomy of urban actors suggest that the common ground of civic action is not always ideological, not always corporative, but mostly material. City, neighborhood, street are very often the spatially consistent focus of concern. And also at the same time, we have seen how the proliferation and differentiation of increasingly individualized points of view, individualized practical actions, shows the need to filter them, organize them, support them, and also disseminate them in a broader way. And that's, those were the arguments that led to Cities for Recovery, which is a collective platform, half researchers, half activists, and that we are dedicated to discuss the role of cities and their communities in times of economic and social transition. Our mission is to observe and disseminate urban practices and urban knowledge, and to build bridges between active social movements. And to do this, we have two projects for now. Two roles, two projects, and two outcomes, maybe. The first role is we are loudspeakers for other people. So we need to come up with a tool to facilitate greater exchange and greater cooperation between active movements. And so we invented the Global City 2.0 network, which is online, which is a global map and a discussion forum of urban civic groups worldwide, where people can tag their own group, put in their information, what they do, and maybe talk with others that have experienced similar problems in their own cities. And the outcome of this would be the City Civic Think Tank, which is a repository of technical and scientific knowledge about cities, which builds upon all the data and all the information and all the exchange that the active movements have given us. We are more or less at the middle of that process now, because the project is online and is in need of more data and more people participating. And the second project, or the second role, is actually I'm seeing something now. I have switched the ideas. So the first idea, the Global City Network, would be the bridge between active movements, and this second idea would be the loudspeaker. So to say a platform of observation and dissemination of collective practices and collective knowledge. And therefore we have came up recently with the Low Cost and High Value Urban Initiatives publication, which is a survey of effective and valuable community projects, which will provide what we call a local agenda for recovery, which is the dissemination and the critical engagement with projects, local projects that have visible effects in local economy. So Global City 2.0 was presented in Lisbon in April 2011 with some success at the time. It is an attempt to map and to connect urban civic groups worldwide in order to create a global platform for interaction, learning, and exchange. We are now online. The website is this one, globalcitynetwork.org, and we are in the process of collecting information and mobilizing support from groups and from institutions around the world. So what people can do is to put in the information about their movement, tag it on the map, and start looking at what other people are putting in and seeing what kind of collaboration and exchange opportunities can happen. We are quite aware that sometimes movements think they have to invent the wheel all over again, and probably most of the trouble we are facing has been faced somewhere else and by other people, and we can learn from that exchange. And this second project, which is right at the beginning, well, it's based on some examples we have, mainly from the United Kingdom, and we wish to document efforts by local communities and social and economic actors for creative solutions to develop their local economies. So we wish to identify low-cost and high-value community-led initiatives that address concrete problems and develop local potentials. The actions should be locally based, quick to implement, and directed to the public. And for this, we are now looking for participation of people that are interested in sharing their story and want to help us to prepare our short survey for a future publication. So I think one of the ideas behind this, a broader idea, a broader agenda for this, is that projects like this ones that I'm showing now can help to develop alternative mediums to support and to catalyze global exchanges and global independencies beyond bureaucratic pipelines that we have now. Markets, corporations, public authorities are all globally networked, and this is a way to make urban civic movements have their own pipeline, their own platform of exchange. So we are not a social movement, as I said before, with direct intervention. Also not a merely academic effort towards generic discussions. We see ourselves as a builder of bridges between other movements and a loudspeaker for other people's practices. And the aim is to support and to enable both. There is a quote actually by David Harvey, who I didn't know was to be here, and to maybe say this is not right, but well, he writes about the two major paths to the search of alternative futures. One is examining oppositional movements, concrete movements, and distill them in essence of an oppositional program. The other one is to make theoretical and practical analysis on a more distant position, and the task is to initiate dialogue between those two paths and thereby deepen the understanding of the possibilities. I think that's more or less where we would put ourselves in this connection of two paths. So we have some internal issues to discuss. So we are an informal platform. How do we turn ourselves into an established association? Where can we find funding for our kind of activities? And also how to keep an informal group of people spread all over the country without other projects in their hands, working steadily towards a common project. A second concern is to know what are actually our targets or our partners. We see that from our experience until now, mobilization has happened much more against bureaucratic, autistic, and ineffective public authorities than what we would call truly corporate-style neoliberal forces. Our experience has been, for example, City Hall that would rather abandon and forbid access to a space than tolerate self-management or occupation for social purposes, or even the City Hall that opposes the clear majority of the population to quickly spend available funds and on projects whose only purpose is to leave a legacy. These are the things that we have seen as more evident and more strongly happen in our country for now. And to end, I have 30 seconds now, right? So this is two quotes that can be useful perhaps for a future discussion then. The question if we, our group and others, we are also a product of neoliberalism. NGOs have in many instances stepped into the vacuum of social provision left by the withdrawal of the state from such activities, and apparently in some cases they went hand in hand as Trojan horses for global neoliberalism. Another quote by Harvey. Well, I'm not sure about that, maybe we can talk about that. Are we also contributing to say that the state has become irrelevant and so we have to put that work into ourselves or not? That would be a discussion for later. So I think I have 10 minutes, so thank you very much.